I wasn't even supposed to be home. The flight got canceled. Something about lightning near Dallas. I didn't care. I just wanted to surprise her. She loves surprises. Or at least, she used to. When I walked into the kitchen, there were 4 wine glasses in the sink. We don't even own 4 wine glasses. I stood there staring at them like they were artifacts from a crime scene. One still had lipstick on the rim. Not Cecily's shade, too red, too bold. She wears neutrals. That's her thing. Understated elegance. Except now, apparently, we've upgraded to bold lipstick guests and secret parties. The worst part? She didn't even flinch when she saw me. She was sitting on the living room floor, back against the couch, scrolling through her phone like this was just another Tuesday. Hair tied up, wearing my hoodie, like some kind of emotional camouflage. And all she said was, "Oh, you're back early." No hug. No, I missed you. Just, "Oh." I asked about the glasses. Calmly. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. She said, "Some of the girls came over." I said, "You only hang out with Amanda." She blinked. Amanda brought friends. I'm not an idiot. I'm a lot of things, insecure, sensitive, slightly allergic to confrontation, but I'm not an idiot. So I asked, "Where are they now?" She looked at the clock like she had to calculate the answer. They left maybe half an hour ago. The trash hadn't even been taken out. There were no shoes by the door. No jackets. No voices. No makeup-smudged napkins in the bathroom. Nothing. But still, 4 wine glasses. She told me I was overthinking. Again, that I needed to relax. "You always do this," she said. "You spiral." Maybe I do. I've been told that before, by therapists, ex-friends, the guy at the DMV once. But spiraling doesn't explain the shirt I found under the bed the next morning. It wasn't mine. Wasn't hers. Was a man's. Size large. Tag still attached. She said it was a gift for her brother. Her brother lives in Oregon. He's a vegan who only wears hemp. The man owns 1 pair of shoes and a backpack made of recycled newspapers. He doesn't wear department store Henleys in navy blue. So I did what I always do. I made coffee, stared into the mug like it could offer answers, and wrote a passive-aggressive journal entry I'll never show anyone. But I couldn't stop thinking about the glasses, and the shirt, and the fact that she left the front door unlocked all night, which she never does, unless she's waiting for someone to come back. And that's when I said it. We were eating toast in silence, like strangers who didn't know how to chew anymore, and I just said it. "All right, go ahead. But the second you step out that door, our marriage is over. Don't even think about returning." Her hand froze halfway to the butter. She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't even pretend to be confused. She wiped her mouth with a paper napkin, set it down like she was in a hotel. And then she said, "Okay," and walked upstairs. I didn't know it yet, but she wasn't packing a bag. She was hiding something. Something I wouldn't discover until 4 days later, in the lining of her coat. For days passed, and she didn't leave the house. That should have made me feel better, but it didn't. It was like she was waiting me out. Like she knew I wouldn't stick to what I said. That I'd crumble. That I'd fall back into my usual patterns, swallowing suspicions like pills and calling it marriage. She cooked dinner 2 of those nights. Stir fry on Wednesday. Tuna pasta on Friday. No eye contact. No conversation. Just the soft clink of forks against plates and the sound of her humming that same tune from childhood, the one I used to find cute. Now it grated on me like static. Saturday morning, I saw her coat on the back of the chair, the ugly burgundy one with the gold zipper. The one I bought her last winter after she lost her favorite puffer during a mysterious weekend away with college friends. I had never seen her wear it until this week, and she wore it every single day since I gave her the ultimatum. Something about that coat itched at me, like a buzzing in the back of my head I couldn't ignore anymore. So I waited until she went upstairs to meditate, which is her new code for locking herself in the guest bathroom with her phone, and I slipped the coat off the chair as quietly as I could. My hands were shaking, but I kept telling myself, "You're not crazy. You're not crazy. You just need the truth." I started with the pockets. Tissues. Gum wrappers. A half-melted lip balm. Nothing suspicious. Nothing unusual. Then I felt it, a crinkled piece of paper stuffed deep in the lining. Not in a pocket, but behind the seam, like it was meant to stay hidden. I pulled it out. A receipt. 2 wine bottles. 1 packet of cigarettes. A hotel room for 1 night. Paid in cash. The date? 3 days ago. The name on the receipt wasn't hers. It was a man's. Declan R. I stared at the paper, so long my vision blurred. My first thought was, maybe she picked it up off the street. Maybe it's someone else's. But no, the coat hadn't left her body in days. That receipt had been there, pressed against her side, close to her skin. Declan, a name I had never heard her say, not once in 5 years. I made a mistake then. I Googled the hotel. It was 5 miles away. A roadside place with no website, no reviews. The kind of place with peeling wallpaper and keys instead of cards. The kind of place people go when they don't want to be seen. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Instead, I put the receipt back in the lining exactly where I found it and walked out of the house. I walked until my legs hurt. Then I walked further. I didn't bring my phone. Didn't bring my wallet. I didn't want to be reachable. I didn't want to be real. When I got back, she was on the couch, legs tucked under her, scrolling through her phone. She didn't ask where I went. Just said, I made extra pasta. I mumbled something about not being hungry and went upstairs. But I couldn't sleep. Not after what I did next. Because somewhere between 2 and 3 a.m., while she was asleep, or pretending to be, I went into the garage, pulled out the spare tire cover from my trunk, opened the toolbox I hadn't touched since last summer. And there, inside the bottom drawer, was her old iPhone. The one she told me she traded in 6 months ago. She hadn't. She'd hidden it. And guess what? It still turned on. No passcode. It was wiped clean, almost. Except for one folder. Titled, R. One video. 12 seconds. And the voice in it. Not hers. Not mine. And the name they whispered? Declan. I didn't even breathe when I hit play. The screen lit up my face like a match in the dark, showing me just enough to make me wish I hadn't looked. The video was only 12 seconds long, but it felt like it stretched for hours. It started with the sound of wind, harsh, scraping, like someone recording outside a moving car. Then a voice. A man's voice, low and grainy. He said her name. Not Cecily, not Babe, not Love. He said Cece. No one has called her that in years, not even me. She told me once that she hated the nickname because it sounded cheap. Yet here it was, sliding out of a stranger's mouth like a secret. The camera shifted, and for half a second, I saw her, in the passenger seat of a car I didn't recognize. The interior lights were dim, and the reflection from the window cut across her face, splitting it into two halves, one calm, one terrified. I couldn't tell if she knew she was being filmed. She looked straight ahead, lips pressed tight, and then she said something I'll never unhear. He thinks I don't remember. Then the video cut off. I just sat there, phone in hand, heartbeat crawling into my ears. My first thought was that she was talking about me, that I was the he. But what didn't she remember? What was there to remember? The question burned through me until it didn't even feel like a question anymore. It felt like an infection. I replayed the clip over and over until the battery died, staring at her frozen expression between frames. That wasn't fear or guilt. It was something else, a kind of recognition, like she was staring at something she'd seen before but couldn't name. And behind her, in the reflection of the window, I swear I saw a figure. Just for a blink. A man standing outside, too close to the glass. Watching her. Watching them. His outline was vague, but something about his posture made my skin crawl. He wasn't moving. He wasn't blurred by motion like everything else. He was perfectly still. I charged the phone, but the folder was gone. Deleted. Just like that. I checked the recently deleted files. Empty. I tried to recover it with every trick I knew, but nothing worked. It was as if the video had erased itself the moment I saw it, like it wasn't supposed to exist anymore. When I confronted her the next morning, I didn't mean to. It just slipped out, somewhere between making coffee and pretending to read the news. I asked her, "Who's Declan?" Her hand froze mid-pour, spilling milk onto the counter. For a split second, she looked relieved. Not scared. Not caught. Relieved. Like I'd finally said something she'd been waiting to hear. She smiled, just barely, and said, "I was wondering when you'd ask." Then she did something even stranger. She walked over, took my hand, and placed a small key in it. Cold, silver, and engraved with a number I didn't recognize, 208. She said, "You'll need this tonight. Don't be late." And before I could speak, she kissed me on the cheek and left the house without her coat, without her phone, without looking back. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, staring at the key like it was a live wire. Room 208. It had to be the hotel from the receipt. My mind was racing. If I went there, what would I find? Her? Declan? Something worse? I don't know what possessed me, but by evening, I was standing in front of that motel, the same one from the receipt, its neon sign buzzing like a dying wasp in the cold air. The key felt heavier in my pocket the closer I got. When I reached room 208, the door was already cracked open, just enough to see the flicker of a television inside, playing static. I knocked once, twice. No answer. Then I heard it, a voice from inside. My name. Whispered. And not in her voice. The whisper of my name wasn't just sound, it was pressure. It felt like it crawled across the floor and into my ears, cold and slow, like fog under a door. I don't even know how long I stood outside room 208, heart hammering, trying to decide if I was brave or just stupid. But then the door opened wider, not pulled, not pushed, just eased itself open another inch, like it was tired of waiting for me. Inside, the television flickered black and white snow. No remote in sight. The curtains were shut tight, and the air smelled like copper and lemon cleaner. Not fresh, not foul, just scrubbed clean too recently, like something had been erased. I stepped in. The room was empty. Not in the literal sense. There was a bed, a chair, a dresser, even a half-eaten apple on the nightstand, but it felt empty. Hollow. Like no one had ever lived in it, but someone had definitely died in it. The voice was gone. Nothing but the hiss of static now. I called out, Cecily, even though I knew she wouldn't answer. Her name sounded wrong in that room, like the air didn't want to carry it. I checked the bathroom. Shower curtain drawn. I pulled it back fast like they do in movies, expecting some awful reveal. Nothing. Just a dry tub and a yellowing bar of soap still in its wrapper. But when I turned back toward the bed, that's when I saw it. A photo. On the pillow. Not in a frame. Just a printed 4x6 photo, like it had come straight from a drugstore kiosk. And in the photo was me. I was sitting on a park bench. Alone. Wearing the same jacket I had on now. Same jeans. The same scuff on the toe of my left shoe. It was taken from behind, but you could tell it was recent. Days ago, maybe hours. And I hadn't been to any park this week. That photo shouldn't exist. There was no note. No message. Just the photo and the silence. I checked under the pillow. Nothing. I looked around the room again, slower this time, like it might reveal something if I gave it long enough to breathe. And that's when I noticed the mirror. It hung above the dresser, too high to be useful, tilted down slightly, like it was meant to watch more than reflect. And when I stepped in front of it, I saw something that made my skin seize up. There was someone standing behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly knocked over the chair. No one. The room was empty. Again. But I swear on whatever's left of my sanity, there was a man in that mirror, tall, dark coat, face obscured, standing just behind my shoulder. I looked back at the mirror. Now it was just me. I grabbed the photo off the bed and ran. I didn't even close the door behind me. I just got in my car and drove for 20 minutes without direction, windows down, fingers clenched so tight around the steering wheel my knuckles ached. When I finally pulled over, I was shaking. Not from cold. From knowing. From feeling something had shifted, like a puzzle I hadn't realized I was solving just gave me a piece from a different box entirely. I looked down at the photo in the passenger seat and noticed, for the first time, that there was a shadow on the grass behind me in the image. A long one. Not mine. Someone else was there. Watching. Taking the picture. And they wanted me to know it. I went home and didn't sleep. I stayed up searching online for the motel, the number 208. Even the smell I couldn't forget. Nothing. No local reports. No odd news. Just static, everywhere I looked, like someone had vacuumed up the digital footprints behind them. The next morning, Cecily returned. She came in like it was any other day, carrying a small paper bag with bagels and a cinnamon coffee, my favorite, which she hasn't brought me in months. She handed it to me without a word, then pulled out her chair at the table and said, "So, did you see him?" I froze. I didn't ask who. I didn't need to. She stirred her coffee, slowly, and said, "If he showed himself already, then we don't have much time." I asked, barely above a whisper, "Who is he?" She didn't look at me. She just smiled, but not with joy, not with cruelty. With resignation. And said, "He's the one I forgot. But he didn't forget us." I didn't eat the bagel. I watched her sip her coffee like we weren't sitting in a reality that had completely ruptured, like she hadn't just asked if I'd seen him. Like this was just Sunday, and we were just a couple still pretending to function. I wanted to scream, to flip the table, to shake her until she dropped whatever delusion she was wrapped in. But I didn't, because something told me she wasn't delusional. She was calm, too calm, and I wasn't. My hands were still trembling under the table. I asked again, slower this time, "Who is he?" She didn't answer at first, just stared into her cup, and then she said something that made my stomach seize. "I used to dream about him. A long time ago, but I thought I made him up. You know, like the monster kids invent when they need to explain why they're scared at night. He had a name back then. Declan. I gave it to him because it sounded normal. Safe. Something you could say out loud without summoning anything." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it felt like the only sound I could make without collapsing. "Are you saying this is some kind of imaginary friend?" "No," she said, locking eyes with me now, voice steady. "I'm saying he used to be imaginary, and now he's not." I didn't respond. I couldn't, because there was nothing left in me to argue with. Every strange thing, the wine glasses, the second phone, the receipt, the video, the mirror, the photograph, it all bent towards something that didn't fit in the normal world. And the terrifying part wasn't that it didn't make sense. The terrifying part was that it did. She stood, walked toward the hallway, then stopped. "You should see it for yourself. What I found. It's in the attic." I hadn't been up there in over a year. The ladder groaned under my weight as I climbed, pulling the string light down and clicking it on. The bulb flickered like it didn't want to reveal what was waiting. It was cold, the kind of dry cold that settles in your bones, untouched by any vent or window. There were boxes, old decorations, a torn bean bag, and something I didn't recognize, a wooden chest in the corner. I didn't remember us bringing it here. It wasn't labeled. Just plain, scratched wood with a latch that looked older than the house. I opened it. Inside, on top, was a small calendar. Not new. Worn. The kind people used to hang in kitchens before everyone switched to apps. I flipped through it, confused. It was from 6 years ago, the year we got married. Each month had handwritten notes, not in my handwriting and not in Cecily's. Little entries like "He's watching again," and "Don't answer the knock," and "Thursday is wrong." But then I turned to July, and my whole body locked up. On the square for July 17th, our wedding day, someone had written, in deep black marker, "He stood beside you. You didn't see him, but he saw you." I dropped the calendar. It hit the wood floor with a dry slap. Under it was more photos, dozens of them, all of Cecily, all candid, all clearly taken without her knowledge. From different cities, different years. She looked younger in some, older in others. And in nearly every single one, there was a figure in the background. Never close, never centered, just enough in frame to be noticed if you were looking. Tall, blurred, watching. I started to shake. My mouth was dry. Then I saw one last thing, a notebook, leather-bound, tucked at the bottom of the chest. I opened it and saw a sentence written over and over again, page after page. "He doesn't forget. He only waits." The last few pages were blank, until the final one. It said, "If you found this, he's already inside your house." I dropped the notebook and scrambled down the ladder, calling for Cecily. No answer. The front door was wide open. Her bag was on the couch. Her phone still plugged in. No coat. No shoes. She was gone. And I swear, as I stood in the hallway with the attic still yawning open behind me, the TV in the living room turned itself on. Just static. Just like room 208. The static wasn't just sound anymore. It was presence. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and immediately sense you're not alone? No noise, no movement. Just the skin-tightening instinct that someone is watching from a place your eyes haven't found yet? That's what it felt like standing there with the attic gaping above me, the television flickering to life on its own, Cecily gone without a word. I should have run. Should have gone to a friend's house. A hotel. Anywhere. But I didn't. I sat down on the edge of the couch, slowly, like lowering myself into cold water, and watched the TV screen. At first, it was just black and white fuzz, the occasional line rolling upward. But then something started to form. Shapes in the distortion. Movement. It was faint, like looking at a figure behind frosted glass. Then it sharpened. It was me. I was sitting on the couch, wearing the same clothes I had on right now. Only not quite. The version of me on the screen wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. He just sat there, frozen, eyes wide, mouth slightly open like he was mid-sentence and forgot the words. I leaned forward. The image leaned forward. But I hadn't moved. I was frozen too now, but in fear. The image on the screen blinked. I did not. Then the camera angle on the screen panned, as if someone holding it turned slightly to the left, revealing a shadow behind the couch. The shape of someone standing there, tall, silent, just out of view. As soon as it appeared, the screen went black. A high-pitched ring cut through the speakers. Sharp, metallic, familiar. The same tone I'd heard in the 12-second video from the old phone. Then a new screen appeared. A menu. A simple one. Blue text. Black background. For options. Play. Delete. Archive. Upload. And underneath. Recording complete. The remote was on the table. I hadn't touched it. I reached out, hesitant, picked it up like it might bite me. I hovered over play, but something in my chest told me not to. Not yet. Instead, I pressed archive. Nothing happened. The screen flickered once. Then it displayed a message. Archive locked. Password required. I sat there, staring, feeling like the world was folding in around me. Then, something clicked in my head. The calendar from the attic. July 17th. The wedding date. The message written in black ink. I typed in 0717. Access denied. I tried again, Declan. Nope. I was reaching, panicking. I tried random numbers. The year we moved in. Her birthday. The number on the hotel key. All wrong. Then I remembered something. In the attic, there was a note in the calendar. Thursday is wrong. And something else, in the notebook, the last line. He's already inside your house. I typed inside. The screen blinked. Access granted. What followed was a list of video files. Hundreds. Thousands. Dated years back. All labeled with my name. And Cecily's. And other names I didn't recognize. I scrolled. Some files were decades old, before I was born. The oldest one read, Ellery, 1948, corridor entry. That's my last name. My grandfather's. I never met him. My father barely spoke of him. I always thought he died in some accident no one wanted to talk about. I clicked on the file. It opened to black and white footage, grainy, stuttering. A man in suspenders stood in what looked like a hallway, breathing heavily, looking behind him again and again. He kept muttering something I couldn't hear. Then, in the corner of the frame, a figure emerged. Him, not fully visible, just the suggestion of a man. Long limbs, unnatural stillness, face blurred. My grandfather collapsed to the floor. The video cut. I sat there, holding the remote like it was burning. This wasn't just about Cecily. This wasn't even just about me. Whatever this was, it was older, bigger. It was watching generations of my family. I heard the front door creak. My stomach dropped. I turned. It was Cecily. But she wasn't alone. She stepped in like she hadn't vanished. Like she hadn't left the door swinging open and disappeared without her phone or shoes or coat. But she wasn't even out of breath. Her hair was perfectly in place. Her sweater looked freshly washed. There was no sign of panic, no sign of wind, not even dirt on her socks. And when I looked into her eyes, I swear to you, for one flickering moment, I thought they were the wrong color. Behind her, standing half-shadowed in the doorway, was a man. Average height, clean coat, face I couldn't place, and I never forget faces. That's my thing. I've always been the guy who remembers cashiers, Uber drivers, the guy who bags your groceries and winks too much. But this face, it slid off my brain like oil. She didn't introduce him. Didn't look surprised to see me standing in front of the TV, shaking like a leaf. The man stepped forward and closed the door behind him slowly, quietly, as though he'd lived in this house longer than I had. He didn't look at me, not directly, just scanned the room like he was counting things. Like he was checking to make sure nothing had been moved. Cecily broke the silence. Desmond, she said, this is Emory. The name meant nothing, but my bones reacted like it did. Like something old and half-dead in my blood twitched when it heard it. He's here to help us. I laughed. I didn't mean to, it just came out, sharp and ugly and unhinged. Help us. I snapped. Help us with what, Cecily? The haunted VCR in our living room? The attic full of surveillance footage from my dead grandfather's life? Or the fact that I've apparently been stalked since birth by a man who doesn't show up in mirrors? Her face didn't change, but his did. Emory. That's when he finally looked at me. And I swear to you, his eyes didn't have anything in them. No curiosity, no threat, no confusion, just patience. He reached into his coat and pulled out a file folder, thick, unmarked, bound with a thin leather strap. He placed it on the coffee table, right on top of my uneaten bagel, and sat down on the edge of the couch like it was his. Cecily sat beside him, like it was normal. I didn't sit. "You're not going to open it?" he asked, voice so flat I almost missed the words. "I don't open folders from strangers who walk in with my wife." "You opened the attic." That stopped me. My mouth went dry. Emory nodded like he already knew. "Then you've started the process. You've seen the archive. You've triggered your family's cycle. Which means he's awake now. And if we don't move quickly, you won't get another reset." I had no clue what he meant. Reset? Archive? Awake? My mind was sprinting in every direction, but Cecily leaned forward and opened the folder for me. Inside were documents. Old, yellowed, photocopied. The first was a birth certificate. My name. My full name. Date of birth. Hospital. Mother's name. But the father's name, it had been blacked out. Not typed. Burned out. Like someone had pressed a lighter to the paper and removed it entirely. The next page was a photo. Of me. Not as a child. Not even as a teen. As an infant. Being held by a man whose face was blurred. Not digitally. Not from motion. Blurred as if reality itself refused to render it. Behind them was a mirror. In it, I could see my mother smiling. But there was no man holding me in the reflection. Just air. And me, floating. My knees buckled and I finally sat. Cecily looked at me with something close to pity, but not quite. It was the kind of expression people give animals they know can't be saved. "I didn't tell you," she said softly, "because I didn't think I'd have to. I thought we were done with him after the wedding. That the binding worked. That he wouldn't resurface." "What binding?" I whispered, barely holding my voice together. Emory answered, flipping the next page, a scan of an old, handwritten journal entry. "Marriage," he read aloud, "delays the memory. As long as one of them remains unaware, the cycle resets. But if he begins to see, if he looks too closely, the veil thins. He comes back. He always comes back." I wanted to scream. I wanted to walk out and never look back. But deep down, something in me didn't want to leave. Not because I was curious. Not because I believed them. Because something inside me, deep in my spine, in the way my heart had started skipping at night, in the way my memories had begun fracturing, already knew this was true. Emory stood, reached into the folder again, and handed me the final item. A key. Not like the last one. This one was heavier. Older. It looked hand-forged. Attached to a tag that simply read, "Final room." Cecily whispered, "He'll be waiting for you there. He always is." I didn't want to go. I wanted to tear the key in half, burn the folder, erase everything I'd seen, and go back to pretending that all of this was just marital decay and paranoia. That the wine glasses were real friends. That the second phone was innocent. That Cecily was just cold and distant, not terrified. Not protecting me. But I couldn't lie anymore. Not after everything I'd seen. The archive. The footage. The man who didn't cast reflections. The calendar entries written by hands long buried. And Cecily's face. Not haunted, not broken. Resigned. Ready. So I asked, "Where is it?" Emory didn't answer with words. He slid a photograph across the table. An old building, isolated, swallowed by fog. The kind you only see while driving past it on an empty road and feel relief once it's gone. I recognized it. It was the house my father grew up in. Burned down decades ago. Only, apparently it wasn't. That night, I drove alone. Cecily stayed. She said she couldn't go. Said that if he saw both of us together again, it might reset everything. Or worse. I asked what worse meant. She didn't answer. She just kissed my forehead, like someone saying goodbye to a version of me that wouldn't be coming back. The road was empty. The world felt paused. I didn't see a single car on the way there. Just miles and miles of silence and the moon trailing behind me like a silent witness. When I finally saw the house, the real one, not the memory of it, it was exactly as in the photo. Still standing. Windows intact. Like fire had never touched it. The key fit the front door. No resistance. No squeak. It just opened. Like it had been waiting. Inside, the air was still. The kind of stillness that isn't silence, but expectation. Dust hung like suspended time. I stepped carefully, following the hallway. A long corridor that somehow felt longer than the house allowed. And at the end, a door. The final room. The key turned with a quiet click. No drama. No thunder. Just a door opening. The room was ordinary. A chair. A mirror. A candle burning low on a table. A window looking out into a forest that didn't exist on any map I knew. And standing across from me, in the mirror, was me. Alone. No shadow. No monster behind me. Just my reflection. And something written on the mirror in faint fog. You've already chosen. Now remember. And then it hit me. All at once. Not a memory, a knowing. Like something I'd spent my entire life holding underwater finally burst to the surface. I remembered being here. Not just once. Many times. Different ages. Different rooms. But always ending here. Always him, waiting. Watching. Not to torment me. But to protect something. I sat in the chair, heart calm for the first time in weeks. I understood now. The Watchers weren't enemies. They weren't curses. They were warnings. And Declan, the one I feared, the one I saw in shadows, wasn't trying to destroy my life. He was guarding it. Watching through generations, appearing only when the veil thinned, when the danger returned. He was the fracture in the glass that kept us from walking into something far worse. He had no name because he didn't need one. He didn't speak because he didn't have to. He existed because someone had to. A sentinel, bound to our bloodline, not to hurt us, but to make sure we remembered. And we had finally remembered. When I stood, the candle went out. The room didn't darken. Instead, light poured in through the window, morning light, soft and golden. And when I walked outside, the house behind me was gone. Just wind in the trees. Just birds. Just a road leading back. Cecily was waiting when I returned. No questions. No panic. She looked at me like she already knew. And I finally understood what she had been carrying, the weight of silence. The burden of protecting someone who didn't even know they needed protecting. We didn't speak of Declan again. We didn't need to. The archive stopped glitching. The static was gone. The mirror in our hallway no longer bent light strangely. And the dreams, the ones I'd never admitted to having, stopped. We moved away a few months later. Somewhere warm, quiet, where we could start again, not because we were running, but because we could. Sometimes, I still see figures in reflections. Sometimes I still feel that low frequency in the air, like something is listening. But I don't fear it anymore. Because now I remember. And he doesn't need to wake again.